I have with me David Jameson, who's the West Midlands Police and Crime Commissioner, and he became the Commissioner in 2014. David, I know that you've been supporting this really important event, the Walls of Silence event. Why are you interested in this event?
Well, part of my job is holding the police to account, but the other part of the role is dealing with crime, and particularly the victims of crime. And
so what's your view about honour-based violence then as a crime?
Well, that's right. This has been brought to my attention by an independent panel that I've set up in my Victims Commission, and they have indicated to me that honour-based crime is of great importance and quite prevalent and quite damaging to certain parts of our community. So that's why we've put a substantial amount of funding into organisations that are helping women and in some cases young men who have been affected by honour-based violence.
What do you say to those people within the community, maybe some community leaders say, look, you shouldn't be interfering in our communities, let us deal with our own problems?
I would say, and I've made it clear in my plan, that to have your own cultural practices, to have your own religion, and to dress as you feel fit, all of those things should and are acceptable in British society. But violence, bullying, forcing people into doing things that they don't want to do is not part of British society. And that is where the law intervenes, where people carry that out. So it's not interfering with people's cultural beliefs, but it is setting down a line which we can't cross in terms of violence against other people.
And I know that as the Commissioner, in essence, you're the conduit between the community and the police. So what kind of feeling, what kind of vibes are you getting from the community around this kind of area? Are we seeing some positive moves forward?
Well, I think we are, and these things move slowly. And our own society here, there were practices of 30 or 40 years ago that were illegal, which are no longer illegal now. It's part of being in a liberal society. We are changing. So we are moving gradually. In some areas we're moving quite rapidly and changing those distinctions between what is a cultural belief but what is also a criminal act in this country.
I think that's right, and I think, David, you would agree with me is that any violence perpetrated against any individual doesn't bring any honour to a community but brings shame to a community.
Well, I think that's absolutely right, that only shame can come from anybody who commits bullying, intimidation, violence, and takes away the liberty of somebody else. That doesn't bring any honour to that community, it brings only shame. And it brings shame to the wider society as well, in which we want to live freely and happily with each other.
Okay, so there is no honour in honour-based violence. And David Jameson, Police and Crime Commissioner of West Midlands, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I have with me Sophie Lott from the Forced Marriage Unit. Welcome to the conference, Sophie.
Thank you, it's really good to be here.
Yeah. First of all, can you tell our viewers what is the Forced Marriage Unit? What do they do?
Okay, so the Forced Marriage Unit is a government unit. It's a joint unit between the Home Office and the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, and we will assist anyone that's at risk of forced marriage, and we have a national helpline.
And in terms of any victim, anybody who might be experiencing any kind of honour-based crime, what advice would you give them and what kind of support could they get?
Certainly from our perspective, we deal with forced marriage exclusively, but I think anyone that's at risk of harm needs to make sure that they get in touch with the police if they're worried. There is a focus certainly on not getting people into trouble, but about protecting individuals. They can contact us anonymously if they want, and we can talk through the options. And there are many different options that aren't necessarily focused on getting families into trouble.
And what about those people that might be at risk of being sent abroad? I know that you have a particular role in that regard.
Yeah, so from our perspective, we will assist anyone who is maybe at risk of forced marriage and maybe is being taken overseas to another country to be married to someone else out there. They can contact us before, or if they're out there, they can get in touch with someone and we will be able to assist them. If they're a British or dual national, we could potentially undertake a rescue or use UK legislation to get them safely back to the UK.
And what kind of success have you had in terms of supporting people?
We've been very successful. We haven't had, touch wood, any awful situations. Our staff overseas are trained to understand the situation and know how best to respond. We have very clear guidance that safeguards individuals.
So any individual that may be abroad and that they're, obviously worried, they could contact their local embassies and the High Commissions abroad, yeah?
They could certainly do that. They could contact a friend in the UK to get in touch with us. If it's safe for them to get in touch with us, they could speak to us directly. We can then organise how to assist and what's best and appropriate for them.
Okay. And I know that you've got an app and you've got various helplines. Can you say something about that? And we've got them on the screen there as well.
Yeah. So we have a national helpline.
Maybe the camera can...
And it's 0207 008 0151. We also have an email address. We have a Facebook account that's really good with links to local organisations in different parts of the UK as well. And we also have the app, as I highlighted. Freedom Charity helped fund an amazing app that has direct contact to us, to the police, and really good information for practitioners on how to spot the signs and how to help.
Okay, that's Sophie Lott from the Forced Marriage Unit. Thank you very much, Sophie, and good luck with the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
ਇਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਾਉਂਸਲਰ ਬਲਵਿੰਦਰ ਕੌਰ ਕੌਵੈਂਟਰੀ ਸਿਟੀ ਕਾਉਂਸਲ ਤੋਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਮੌਜੂਦ ਨੇ। ਬਲਵਿੰਦਰ, ਅੱਜ ਜੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਫੋਰਸਡ ਮੈਰਿਜ ਜਾਂ ਆਨਰ ਬੇਸਡ ਵਾਇਲੈਂਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਅੱਜ ਵਰਕਸ਼ਾਪ ਕੀਤੀ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਪੱਖੋਂ ਕੀ ਇਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਕੀ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੋਗੇ?
ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੀ ਇਦਾਂ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਹੈ ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ 10 15 20 ਸਾਲ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਵੀ ਇਦਾਂ ਦੇ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸਿਸ ਹੋਣੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ। ਹੁਣ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਬਚਪਨ ਤੋਂ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਹੈਗਾ ਵੀ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਮਾਪੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਇਦਾਂ ਹੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਪੈਂਦਾ। ਆਪਣੇ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ 'ਚ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਇਹ ਵੱਡੀ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਸਾਰੇ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਵੀ ਬਾਕੀਆਂ ਦਾ ਸੋਚੋ, ਬਾਕੀ ਕੀ ਕਹੋਗੇ, ਇਦਾਂ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਆ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ, ਉਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ। ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਘੱਟ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਆ ਤੇ ਸੋਸਾਇਟੀ ਦਾ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਆ।
ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਈ ਲੋਕ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਇਹ ਰੌਲਾ ਪਾਈ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ 'ਚ ਕੋਈ ਐਸੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ, ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਕੀ ਕਹੋਗੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ?
ਆਪਣੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਹੈ। ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਹੈ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਘਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਰੱਖਣੀ ਆ, ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਗਾ, ਸਾਡੀ ਬੇਇੱਜ਼ਤੀ ਹੋ ਗਈ, ਆ ਹੋ ਗਈ। ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਬਕਵਾਸ ਹੈ, ਇਹ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਡਰਦੇ ਆ। ਡਰਦੇ ਜੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਿਆਣੇ ਕੁਝ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕਹੋਗੇ ਜਾਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਰਿਸ਼ਤੇਦਾਰ 'ਚ ਕੋਈ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਿਆਣੇ ਹੈ, ਸੋ ਬੈਟਰ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਵੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਹੈ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ। ਜੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਹੀਏ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ ਤਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ ਗੀ, ਜੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਦਿਸਦੀ ਤਾਂ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ ਗੀ। ਪਰ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮਸ ਹੈ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਲੁਕੀਆਂ ਆ, ਤਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦਾ ਵੀ ਘਰ ਵੀ ਕੋਈ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦਾ ਆ, ਉਹ ਇੰਨਾ ਡਰ ਕੇ ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਆਪਣੇ ਦਿਲ ਦੀ ਕੋਈ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ, ਮਾਪੇ ਜਾਂ ਹੋਰ ਸੋਸਾਇਟੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕੋਈ ਨਾ ਠੀਕ ਹੋ ਜਾਏਗਾ, ਇੱਦਾਂ ਕਰੋਗੇ। ਸੋ ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮਸ ਵਧਾਈ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ।
ਤਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਹੋਰ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਕਿਹਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਔਰਤ ਆ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਸ਼ਿਕਾਰ ਵੀ ਔਰਤ ਹੀ ਇਸ ਜੋ ਇਹ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਦੇ, ਪਰ ਔਰਤ ਵੀ ਇਨਫੋਰਸਰ ਵੀ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਔਰਤ ਹੁੰਦੀ, ਇਹ ਕੀ ਕਾਰਨ ਇੱਥੇ?
ਮੇਰਾ ਇਹ ਖਿਆਲ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਔਰਤ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਕੋਈ ਅਬਿਊਜ਼ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੋਣਾ, ਉਹਦਾ ਕੋਈ ਸੋਚ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਰਿਐਲਿਟੀ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਆ, ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਹੋਈ ਸੀਗੀ ਤਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਵੀ ਗਾਂ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਹੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਆ, ਬਿਕਾਜ਼ ਇਹ ਨੋਰਮਲ ਹੈਗਾ। ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ ਫਿਰ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਹੋਰ ਪਨਿਸ਼ਮੈਂਟ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਆ। ਪਰ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਇਹ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਆਪਾਂ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਔਰਤਾਂ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਆ ਵੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਘਰ ਧੀਆਂ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਆ, ਸਾਡੀਆਂ ਧੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ ਹੋਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ, ਨੋਹ ਬਣਦੀਆਂ, ਜੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਘਰ ਨੋਹਾਂ ਆਉਂਦੀਆਂ ਆ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਸਾਡੀਆਂ ਧੀਆਂ ਆ। ਪਰ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਵੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੋਰ ਕੁਛ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋਰ ਕੁਛ ਆ।
ਲਾਸਟ ਪੁਆਇੰਟ ਆ ਵੀ ਕਈ ਲੋਕ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਵੀ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਮਾਜ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਧਰਮ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਖਤਰਾ ਆ ਜੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਖੁੱਲ੍ਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ, ਇਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹੋਗੇ?
ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਸਮਾਜ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਉਹ ਹੋਰ ਗੱਲ ਹੈ। ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਦੇਖੀਏ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ, ਆਪਾਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਬਾਣੀ 'ਚ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਆ ਵੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਇਕੁਅਲ ਹੈਗੇ, ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਸੇਵਾ ਕਰਨੀ ਆ, ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਦੇਖਭਾਲ ਕਰਨਾ, ਉਹ ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਹੱਥ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਆ ਤੇ ਸਮਾਜ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸੋਸਾਇਟੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਆਪਾਂ ਦੂਸਰੇ ਹੱਥ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਆ। ਇਕੱਠਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਉਹਦਾ ਦੀ ਮੈਰਿਜ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ।
ਇਹਦਾ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ 'ਚ ਵੀ ਧਾਰਨ ਮਿਲਦਾ ਵੀ ਸੋ ਕਿਉ ਮੰਦਾ ਆਖੇ ਜਿਤ ਜਮੇ ਰਾਜ ਜਾਣ, ਔਰ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜਲ ਹੋਇਆ ਸੀ ਜਿਤ ਮੈਂ ਪਿਆਰਾ ਵਿਸਰੇ। ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਜਾਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਧਰਮ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਿਸੇ ਕਲਚਰ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਸਾਂਝ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਜ਼ੁਲਮ ਹੋਵੇ, ਅਸੀਂ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਜ਼ੁਲਮ ਦੇ ਖਿਲਾਫ ਹਾਂ। ਤਾਂ ਮੇਰਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਇਹੀ ਕਿਹਾ। ਸੋ ਬਲਵਿੰਦਰ ਕੌਰ ਜੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ। ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਸਾਰੇ ਹੀ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਆਖਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੀ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਕਹੋਗੇ?
ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੀ ਵੀ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦੇ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸਿਸ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਅਪ ਐਂਡ ਡਾਊਨ ਦ ਕੰਟਰੀ, ਸਕੂਲਾਂ 'ਚ, ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਿਆਂ 'ਚ, ਜਿੰਨਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਅਵੇਅਰਨੈਸ ਰੇਜ਼ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ, ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਸਰਜੀਤ ਨਾਲ ਹੋਇਆ ਸੀਗਾ, ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਦੂਜੀਆਂ ਲੜਕੀਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਹੋਇਆ ਸੀਗਾ, ਇੱਦਾਂ ਹੋਣਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ। ਤਾਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਤੋਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਵੇਅਰਨੈਸ ਰੇਜ਼ ਕਰੋ। ਸੋ ਆਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮਸ ਹੈਗੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਬੰਦ ਕਰੀਏ ਤਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਤੀਵੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਇੱਜ਼ਤ ਕਰੀਏ।
ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮਸ ਬੰਦ ਕਰੋ, ਔਰਤ ਦੀ ਇੱਜ਼ਤ ਕਰੋ, ਇਹੀ ਸੁਨੇਹਾ ਗੁਰੂਆਂ ਦਾ, ਤਾਂ ਇਹੀ ਬਲਵਿੰਦਰ ਕੌਰ ਦਾ ਸੁਨੇਹਾ। ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਜੀ।
What is she? Why is she important? Many of you have already come across the case, so I won't dwell too much on the background detail too heavily. Sajit was my sister, a sister that we all had. And when I got that phone call, Christmas, December 1998, on the 18th of December, that my sister has not returned back on that critical airline flight back to the UK, all hell went loose in my mind. Where is my sister? Why has she not returned? She left on the 3rd of December. I wasn't happy for her to go with her mother-in-law from Heathrow, but you know, I was very jittery, but okay, you can go, but we want to be assured that you're safe there, and we want to be assured that you're coming back. Because her marriage was on the brink, well, very much going towards divorce. She wanted out. And then she made that critical mistake, if you like, of going on this holiday with her mother-in-law, the worst person in her life. How she managed to get persuaded to go with her remains an open question. But looking at the case itself, I've called in dedication to my sister, and looking at the case, which actually happened, my sister was killed, to put it in brief bullet points, my sister was killed, taken from the UK as part of a very skillful plan, taken by her mother-in-law on that flight on the 3rd of December. Off they went to 3rd of December 1998, off they went to Punjab, East Punjab, on the Indian side, and there, a week later, on the 15th of December, my sister was murdered and her body disposed of in the River Ravi. My sister never came back on that flight. That flight was empty. It had a name on it. There was no Sajid on that flight. I've called the whole subject for today left for dead. There's deep meaning in those words, because what you will hear from me will reflect very much that. My sister, having gone through a grueling experience personally, as a family, having gone through the system and been spat out by the system on multiple levels, the UK government, the Indian government, the Foreign Office, the UK police, having gone in for support, gone in to engage those organisations, and then be spat out by those organisations. The story which I will briefly tell you. My sister, in every practical sense, was left for dead. We don't care. She made the mistake of going out there. She made the mistake of getting strangled. She made the mistake of making herself vulnerable. She made the mistake of having her body disposed of in the River Ravi. None of our business. We don't care. And we're not going to make any extra effort for her. That was the clear messages, recurring messages we continue to get at every official level, and it's a message we still get from the UK government now. And I'll come on to that in a moment. And equally in the community that I'm from, the Punjabi community, the community leaders, the community organisations, we don't care. None of our business. Your sister was a bit of a slag. She had an affair with someone. Well done. Whoever killed her, well done. Finished. So left for dead is actually a true, in my sense, in the sense of the experience I've gone through, she was literally left for dead. And I say with great clarity, mental clarity, if we in Coventry, this daughter of Coventry, if we did not speak up for her, she would still be today an unknown victim, lying, eaten away in that River Ravi. Nobody, nowhere, would have done anything. And that is chilling, that somebody amongst you, sat amongst you, could just go so easily be plucked out of the security of Britain, taken away, and murdered overseas 5,000 miles away. The Foreign Office doesn't want to know. The UK government doesn't want to know. The community leaders don't want to know. And certainly the in-law family, they're going to do their level best to cover it up. So where does a victim like that go? What hope is there for a victim like that? because that parallel applies to us all. Who is there to speak up for us, campaign for us, advocate for us? And that's the chilling difference, that Surjit fortunately had somebody, had some people who cared enough about her, who were prepared to go head on with the British government and the Indian government. Unfortunately, we won. We could have quite easily not have won, but fortunately, due to the forces of good, we won. Now, Surjit was taken away, 10-year miserable marriage, she wanted out, taken away, East Punjab, killed, dumped in the River Ravi, the Indian-Pakistan dividing border. The body would just simply wash away, be eaten away, it would disappear. We have never found Surjit. I've never seen my dead sister. I can only wonder of her crying, shouting, struggling body and emotions when she was being strangled and thrown into that river. There's been a TV reconstruction of that, and when I see that reconstruction, it is very moving. My sister, about in a matter of seconds to be killed. That is powerful. The culprits, the individuals actually carried out the killing hands-on, they're still free. The people that organised the killing was the mother-in-law and the husband in the UK. Surjit was bringing shame on the family because she wanted out of the family. It was bringing huge shame in the community. She was going to divorce this family, and this family said, over our dead body. It was a matter of grave honour for this particular family that this daughter-in-law, however miserable she was in the marriage, however distressed she was, must not, under any circumstances, be allowed to bring shame on the family. If we let go of her, or if she divorces us, it will be a matter of colossal shame. The subject of shame, honour, I won't go deep into that. That's been discussed many a time. It will continue to be discussed. It's such a mental disease, I would call it, because that's what it is. It is a mental disease, no less. This sense, this perception that by not following this very fragile system of honour, by staying quiet, compliant, submissive within an oppressive family structure is a matter of honour, and it's quite good that you stay like that, and that you should stay like that. That is actually a mental disease. There is nothing right about such perverse honour. Guru Nanak says there is no honour, there is absolutely no honour in living a life of misery. There is no honour in forcing or compelling anyone to be married, to accept any social way of life. Guru Nanak says the only true honour is to live life in accordance with the wider, bigger laws of nature. That is true honour. Surjit was from London, West London, a planned murder, planned at home, unbeknown to her, placed on a plane with mother-in-law, off they went, and a week later, Surjit was dead. Job done. Now the family thought, over and done with, no body, no evidential trail, the Indian police are certainly not going to speak up. Wonderful, perfect murder. And in fact, it was a wonderfully perfect murder. Because nobody, including the British police, the Met police, they said, there's no dead body, we've got no clues, we've got no evidence, go away. I went to Stony Stanton police station, I remember that day, when I walked in and I was met with a female police officer. And I said, my sister is probably, very probably dead. Not here, but in India. And the plan to murder her has been hatched here. She stared at me bizarrely, completely not knowing what the hell are you talking about. We've never dealt with any cases like that before, and this is the first time such a case like this has been brought to our attention. She went away and got her sergeant from the back. And the sergeant came and she came and she said, sorry, not our business, can't do anything. And they sent me away within 2 minutes. That's how cold and cruel it was. Was Sarjeet dead? Had she run away with a boyfriend? Was she hiding somewhere? Was she alive somewhere? These were all the questions jumping up and down in my mind. But as far as I was concerned, the worst case scenario was that my sister was dead. And my family needed to do everything they possibly could to locate my sister, to be sure she is safe, to hear her voice. The police, Coventry Police, Metropolitan Police, can't do anything, they said. We can't help you. The Foreign Office can't help you, can't assist. Whatever you need to do, you need to go to India, here's a list of lawyers. Go and do it yourself. Don't bother us. Our family ran around. Dad went to Punjab, went to the police, got some lawyers involved. I wrote to the MP. I raised it with the media, the Coventry Evening Telegraph. I wish to commend them again and again. They were the leading media force behind this case. They did a wonderful job to highlight the case and expose the failures across the system. We as a family were burning away on a daily basis. Mum was just drying up. Where's my daughter gone? Will she ever be found? In fact, Mum, let me tell you something unique. Sarjeet had told Mum 10 months earlier she was having dreams where her dead father-in-law was appearing in those dreams and warning her, your mother-in-law is going to kill you. These are conversations Sarjeet had with Mum 10 months in advance. Dreams like that? Confusion. It's not going to happen. But she had these dreams. And during that period of 15 days that Sarjeet was away, Mum suddenly, when she was walking along the street, she suddenly collapsed all of a sudden without any cause. And she feels something was happening, something was being said to her. Whether we make those connections or not, I don't know. Whether they are connections, I don't know. Anyway, moving forward, we fought through the system, we fought on, we were rejected, we fought on. Clive Driscoll, who unfortunately is not with us today, as we went through the Metropolitan Police system, we eventually managed to get enough officers who were prepared to pick up the case. Our friend has talked about this blind cultural sensitivity, if that's the right word, or blind, don't want to be seen to be racist. So therefore, because I don't want to be seen to be racist, I'm not racist, but I don't want to be seen to be racist, so therefore I'm going to cut corners. So where I should be asking questions, I'm not going to ask questions. I'm just going to pull back and just say, I'm not going to roam into that sensitive territory. You had police officers come in, and several of them said, quite innocently, honour killing? What the hell is that? I'd murder my wife if I found out she was having an affair. All very nice police officers. If I found out my wife was having an affair, I'd chop her up and bury her in the garden. These were white officers saying this. All very friendly guys, all well-meaning, but to kill her because of honour, never heard of that. What's that all about? So they had absolutely no clue what they were dealing with. We pressed, we argued, we pushed, we engaged, we got knocked back. Get this, Uxbridge Police Station. Right, can you imagine this from a police perspective? There's a police officer here. This is a good example for you. Imagine us as a family who's made a complaint about murder being sat in a room, one side of the table, And imagine the accused suspect sat at the other side. And in between you have the investigation officers sat in the middle. And they say, right, Mr. Singh, Jagdish Singh, we're going to ask you questions in front of the suspects. So the suspects will be hearing you when you answer. And then we're going to ask them questions, and then we're going to see what they say. Complete breach of procedure, completely goes against every form of inquiry, method. You have both sides sat in a room and the police are firing questions at us. And we were supposed to be answering those questions. So we're giving the other side a legs up as to what to say and when to say it. This is what we were put through at Uxbridge Police Station. What the hell they were playing at, we don't know. They messed about with the case. Jill Dando died in between. And one of the police officers who really cared about the case, he told me, Jagdish, off the record, your sister's case has been thrown back into the bin. Your sister's case is not being given priority. Superficially, it's still a live case, but Jill Dando is a lot more important. We're devoting everything to Jill Dando, and your sister's case will get dealt with when we get a moment free. So Sajid got thrown back in the bin and left alone, filed away in a box somewhere. Clive picked it up in 2004 after we had gone through many visits to 10 Downing Street. The matter was raised as a parliamentary debate in the House of Commons. Requests for meeting with the Foreign Secretary were thrown back at us. We're not meeting you. Robin Cook, not interested. Jack Straw, not willing to meet you. But they were willing to meet other families. The case in Japan, the famous case in Japan, they were quite happy to have regular meetings with them, and a lot of other cases. The Foreign Office was quite happy to have meetings with them. But somehow, we weren't British enough, we weren't white British enough, we weren't important enough, they refused to have meetings with us. We had meetings, pathetic meetings with people like Baroness Scotland, Junior Foreign Secretary. Pathetic meetings, gave us nothing, did nothing, offered us nothing. It was this ping pong with the Foreign Office. Oh, it's an internal matter of India, we will assist as we can. Clive Driscoll picks up the matter in 2004, head of the homicide squad. Clive Driscoll, the famous guy who turned around the Stephen Lawrence case. From the complete stagnation and stalling that we're stuck in. He equally was a godsend. He turned around, he took the case, picked it up and he ran with it. Hit the ground running. And he turned it into a powerful case that he said to me, he phoned me up one day in 2004 out of the blue when I was morally really down. But God, I've done everything I can. I'm exhausted. Where do I go with this now? And then all of a sudden, bang, there's this phone call from Clive Driscoll. He said, I've picked this case up, I've read through the history of this case, I've read your letters, I am going to get this case pinned down, it is a murder case, and I am going to, damn it, get it pinned down. That was such reassurance. From that day onwards, the whole case changed colour. We worked with him, he worked with us. He actually brought in specialist officers, Sikh officers, DCI Palbinder Singh. He found him somewhere in the Metropolitan Police Network. He said, I want you with me. I want you with me. You're going to tell me how, in a Sikh family, Punjabi Sikh family, how the secrets work. You're going to tell me the subtle signs of honour killings. You're going to tell me how these families internally communicate. Because we white officers have absolutely no clue. So I'm going to pluck you out, Palbinder Singh. You're going to work for me for 2 years on this case. And that was a determined, sensible-minded, careful-minded, solution-minded officer, DCI Clive Driscoll. He wanted to get results done, achieve results, and he knew how to do that. He declared, I'm ignorant about these matters. I'm learning as much as others are learning. But I need the officers to hold my hand, and I will provide the leadership and I will provide the direction. 2007, 3 years later, we had a case which had gone through the CPS, Crown Prosecution Service. We had a case before court for murder against the mother-in-law and the husband. DCI Clive Driscoll with his team had gone to Punjab. They'd gone and interviewed the suspects in Punjab. They'd extracted interviews with them, and they'd gone and met Indian police officers as well. They'd formed a clear picture. They'd gone to the River Ravi. They'd seen everything, done everything, and they'd carried out inquiries in the UK. They had this case, and the case ran in 2007 for 15 weeks at the Old Bailey, the Central Criminal Court. And it was a real banging case. Lots of things got revealed, lots of things came out, including things like Sajid mysteriously reappearing out of the dead in around 2003 and signing away her portion of the marital home to the mother-in-law, and then suddenly going back dead again. That's just one glimpse of the cover-up. The other being, on the very day that Sajid was taken to the airport, the family had taken out between £60,000 to £100,000 worth of life insurance on her that very morning. These are powerful things that were coming out. When the police raided the house, they went into the attic, and lo and behold, what did they find? They found everything from hidden passports to Sajid's own intimate handwritten diaries of the 10-year marriage. Her distress in her own words. Her frustration, the beatings, the physical and the mental abuse. All of that hidden away in an attic, which was all discovered. And lots more things. Now, when Clive Driscoll went in to the investigation, he's told me literally last year. He said, Jagdish, when we went into the investigation, we started to get messages coming through to the Metropolitan Police, through the UK government, that you must not pick up this case. Jagdish Singh is an extremist and a terrorist. You must not pick up this case. He's an enemy of the Indian state. Clive's telling me this. I've not asked for it. I didn't expect it. Clive's telling me this. Sajid's case, dead, murdered, whatever, forget it. Drop it. This is the Indian government communicating to the British government communicating to the Metropolitan Police. Now clearly, the Metropolitan Police makes its own decisions, fortunately, and it's not going to be dictated to by the Indian government. And you had enough robust, courageous officers like Clive saying, basically, F off to the Indian government. We will pursue this case, and we will run with it. And as they progressed through the case, they got a result. Through this whole process, we found we didn't get any support officially or from the community. I'd like to finish by reading out my words, Sajid's final message that I've put together on her behalf. And I'll end on that point.
You've got 5 minutes now.
Yep.
You've got 5 minutes.
You all killed me and thought I would just die. Now I say that about the British government as well. Let me tell you about my very unique meeting with Jack Straw, the Foreign Secretary. After 35 MPs tabled a motion in Parliament asking Jack Straw as a Foreign Secretary, why are you not meeting with the family of Sajid Tatwal? What is so wrong with that family that you refuse to meet with them? No response. Suddenly, I'm cycling through the countryside, and suddenly my phone starts ringing, and I think, damn it, shall I ignore that phone call? because I'm on my bike rushing through the countryside. Then I thought, better pick it up. Picked it up, and it's Jagdish Singh. Jack would like to meet with you. I said, oh, wow. Someone as small and insignificant like me suddenly wants to meet with me. We set up a meeting. We have a meeting. MPs are there. I'm there. Southall Black Sisters there, and others are there. Jack says to me, look, we realise mistakes have been made. We realise that we should have done more on this case. I will this evening speak to the Indian Prime Minister when I'm calling him at 8 o'clock. I've got a phone call booked with him. And I will prioritise Surjit's case. You've been asking for an investigation in India from the Central Bureau of Investigation, the Indian equivalent of the FBI, not the mainstream police, a specialist investigation force. I will tell Mr. Advani that we the British government want the CBI to take over this case. I will speak to him at 8 o'clock. We had that meeting at 3 o'clock. So I went away from that meeting cautiously optimistic that he will do that. Come 8 o'clock, come a week, come a month, come a year, no sign of any development on that. Whether he did call them, whether he was just putting me off, I don't know. But that's the kind of tunnels we've gone through. Finally, we got justice in the British courts. The mother-in-law, the husband, they're now serving life sentences. But this whole journey, the powerful journey that we went through, I believe is captured in these words that I just want to end on. Words that I've put together from Surjit. I lived a miserable marriage for 10 years. I was married at the tender age of 16 years into a family that physically and psychologically abused me regularly. I lived a double life of misery in the family and pretending to be happy, be a happy ordinary person at work and outside. My life was a misery. I dared to challenge this when I had enough. As a Punjabi female, my overriding social culture encouraged me to submissively and passively accept the abuse. As a human, I could not. I rose up, I spoke up, I said I wanted a divorce. The in-laws said, over our dead body. In the end, it was to be my dead body. Somehow, they psychologically tricked me into going to East Punjab on a holiday. Whilst there in December 98, I pretended to everyone that all was good and happy. I put up an appearance of normality, just as the in-laws wanted. I attended a wedding, all dressed and smiling as you see me in the final photos of my living life, before I was killed some days afterwards. I had walked into a deadly trap. I had no idea that the British Airways flight that I boarded with my mother-in-law on 4th of December 98 was to be my last in this life, and only one way. The return ticket on the 18th of December 98 was never to be used. Under the pressure of life, the misery and all things, I agreed to go on this 2-week trip, even though my marriage was totally broken and in a mess. I was being pressed to stay in the marriage, to maintain the face and the honour of the family. I was being told, come along for one final visit to East Punjab. You can then come back to the UK and do as you want. Maybe if I did, they would let me have my divorce and finally break free from this misery. How stupid I was. When your heart and mind is all mangled up in stress, abuse, misery, you can't think straight. In desperation, I agreed to go to what everyone else but me knew was my flight to death. The rest is horrifying detail. On 15th December 1998, 3 days before my return flight to the UK, in a remote village in Gurdaspur, Punjab, near the India-Pakistan border, I was drugged, strangled, and my dead body was thrown into the River Ravi on the border with India and Pakistan across the divided Punjab, the country of my forefathers. Never did I think as a British-born Punjabi that I would die in Punjab, and in such a horrid way. The Guru Granth Sahib says that even before you are born, the time and condition of your birth and your death have already been set. When I was being dragged and strangled, I put up a bit of a fight, but I was too weakened by the drugging to do anything much. I could see vaguely what was happened. I could sense something very horribly wrong. I could see lots of men around me, manhandling me. Then all I could see and feel was water. I was below water and my body was lifeless. I left behind 2 very young children, Bhavan, who was 7, and Govan, who was 9 months old. My family in Coventry took up my case with vigour and determination. Thank you, Guru Nanak and Guru Gobind Singh, for giving my family the inspiration, determination and courage to fight for me and others like me. Without you, I do not know what would have happened. Thank you, Clive Driscoll. You were truly a hero. You were there when it truly mattered. You clearly saw what happened to me, whilst others ignored, withered, couldn't be bothered. You gave your full life and determination to my case. From where I am, which is a unique place, which I cannot describe in human words, I simply say that I am an example of the continuing viciousness and discrimination that festers in many communities like mine. I am in a place with others like me. We are safe and happy and will again come to earth. According to the Guru Granth Sahib, our physical lives are meant to be more than just physical. They are meant to have purpose. I believe mine was to die in this way to help awaken and mobilise a soul-searching change. I hope I have played my part. To the governments and establishments of the UK and India, I say that due to your apathy, greed and special relationship, you have ignored mine and many other vicious UK to India murders. And finally, but for my family's determination and pursuit of justice, I would have been left for dead, gone, disappeared, unknown, unidentified, finished, like the thousands others like me gone in the Punjab 1984 genocide, and hundreds of women and men across Punjab who are killed and made to disappear. My name is Sarjeet, the name my parents gave to me from the Guru Granth Sahib. It means to rise up, speak up, shout, mobilise, activate and not die. I am not dead. I am alive in my enduring story. I am alive and will continue to haunt those who killed me. The silent colluders, the UK and Indian government ministers who rejected my case, the police officials, the officials everywhere who called my brother an extremist and terrorist. My name is Sarjeet. I speak for the many, many Sarjeets out there. Thank you very much.
I have with me Manjeet Kaur, who's from Coventry and is a human rights activist. Manjeet, ਅੱਜ ਜੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਕੀਤੀ ਆ ਔਨਰ ਬੇਸ ਵਾਇਲੈਂਸ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਨੂੰ ਅੱਗੇ ਲਿਆਉਣਾ ਕਿਉਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਆ?
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਇਹਨੂੰ ਅੱਗੇ ਲਿਆਉਣਾ ਪਊਗਾ ਬਿਕਾਜ਼ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਸਾਲਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਇੰਨਾ ਕੁਛ ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਪੜ੍ਹਿਓ ਲਿਖਿਓ ਆਪਣੀਆਂ ਬੇਟੀਆਂ ਆ ਆਪਣੀਆਂ ਮਾਵਾਂ ਆ we're saying we're educated, but actually what are we actually educated in? What kind of world do we want to bring our daughters up into? You know, so it's so important when we have conferences like this, especially when you've got other communities coming and they are coming with a mindset of what Punjabi culture is like or Islamic culture is like, and we've got to set them straight to say actually we're not all of that mindset. ਆਪਾਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਇਦਾਂ ਦਾ ਸੋਚਣੀ ਹੈਗੀ।
ਜੋ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਆਨਰ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਆ ਇਹਦੇ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਥਾਂ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਆਨਰ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਵਾਸਤੇ?
No, ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਇਹ ਸਿਧਾਂਤ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਸਰਬੱਤ ਦਾ ਭਲਾ। ਸਰਬੱਤ ਦਾ ਭਲਾ ਮੀਨਸ ਵੈਦਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬੰਦਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਜਾਂ ਬੀਬੀ ਹੋਵੇ ਜਾਂ ਬੱਚਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਸਰਬੱਤ ਦਾ ਭਲਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮੈਸੇਜਸ ਆ we're totally changing those ਜੋ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਲਾਈਫ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਾਨ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਲਾਈਫ ਚੋਇਸਿਸ ਕਰਕੇ you're taking those choices away from and ਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਆ we have free will।
ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੀਆਂ ਜਿਆਦਾ ਖੁੱਲ੍ਹ ਕਰ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਸਾਡੀਆਂ ਤੀਵੀਆਂ ਸਾਡੀਆਂ ਬੱਚੀਆਂ ਉਹ ਖਰਾਬ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ ਇਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਕੀ ਕਹੋਗੇ?
ਸੀ ਮੇਰੀ ਸੋਚਣੀ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਆ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਆ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਖੁੱਲ੍ਹ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਡੂੰਘਾਈ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੇਖੋ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਖੁੱਲ੍ਹ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਉਹ ਬੱਚਾ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਪਿੱਠ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਹੋ ਕੰਮ ਕਰੂਗੇ
ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਕੈਦ ਕਰੋ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੈਦੀ ਬਣਾਓਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨੇ ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਭੱਜਣਾ ਹੀ ਭੱਜਣਾ
ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਭੱਜਣਾ ਆ ਪਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਹੀ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਪਿੱਠ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਕਰਨੀਆਂ ਆ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਬਹਿ ਕੇ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸੋ ਵੀ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਅੱਜ ਦੀ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਸ਼ੂਜ਼ ਬਹੁਤ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਇਸ਼ੂਜ਼ ਆ ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਪਏ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀਜ਼ ਜਾਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਉਹ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਬਹਿ ਕੇ ਦੱਸੀਏ ਵੀ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿਹੜੇ ਇਸ਼ੂਜ਼ ਆ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਆ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਆ ਕੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਗੱਲ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆ ਕੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਹੈਵ ਟੂ ਬੀ ਥੋੜ੍ਹਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਸਿਆਣਪ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਵਰਤਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਉਹ ਲਾਈਫ ਐਕਸਪੀਰੀਅੰਸ ਆਪਾਂ ਦੇਖਿਓ ਆ ਪਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਜਿਹਦਾ ਲਾਈਫ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਅੱਗੇ ਗਈ ਹੋ ਆ ਇਟਸ ਅ ਲੋਟ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਹੁਣ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਦਾ ਵਰਲਡ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਹੁਣ ਹੋਈ ਹੋ ਆ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਬਦਲੀ ਹੋ ਆ
ਸੋ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਮੇਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਰਨਾ ਪਊਗਾ ਪਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਸਿਧਾਂਤ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਅਟੱਲ ਆ ਉਹ ਕਦੇ ਅਸੂਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਦਲਦੇ ਜ਼ੁਲਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨਾ ਜ਼ੁਲਮ ਸਹਿਣਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਪਿਆਰ ਕਰਨਾ ਹਰੇਕ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਬੈਰੀ ਨਾ ਬਗਾਨਾ ਇਹ ਅਸੂਲ ਜੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਅਪਣਾਉਂਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਤੁਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ
ਡੈਫੀਨਿਟਲੀ ਤਾਂ ਉਹੀ ਆ ਆਪਣੇ ਆ ਪਨੀਰੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਨੈਕਸਟ ਪਨੀਰੀ ਇਹੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਆ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਸਿੰਪਲ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਕਲਚਰਸ ਜਾਣਦੇ ਆ ਲਵ ਕੰਪੈਸ਼ਨ ਟੋਲਰੈਂਸ ਉਹ ਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਨੇ already ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਆ ਤੇ ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਫੈਮਲੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਇਦਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਮਿਲ ਬਣ ਸਕਦੇ ਤਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਨੂੰ ਫਿਰ ਕੀ ਮੈਸੇਜ ਦੇਣਾ ਆ
ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਔਰ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਵੀ ਜੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ 40 ਮੁਕਤਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਵਧਾਵਾ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਵੀਕਾਰ ਕੀਤਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਵਧਾਵੇ ਨਾ ਦਈਏ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਪਰਿਵਾਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਰੱਖੀਏ ਪਿਆਰ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੈਦੀ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ
Thank you for inviting me here today. I'm really glad to be here and to join with other women to condemn honour-based violence and I'm hoping to bring a bit of a European perspective of the EU as one of your MEPs. Now, before I start, I know that we've just voted as a country to leave the EU. As someone who has been campaigning for months to remain, I feel pretty devastated. I think that we are much stronger and better and we have real influence, which in the areas of women's rights and combating violence against women, I think we can actually achieve a lot through the EU. So I have to accept the result. I believe in democracy and that is what people have voted for. So in the time remaining to me as an MEP, I will be working away to get the best deal for our own country and for everybody in it, but also to make sure that we have a legacy and that the work that we've done and contributed continues. So I'm spending my time talking to people about how it will affect their life, their business, whatever, and seeing what I can do to be useful. So that's a way of telling you I'm still busy. I'm not just putting my feet up from now on. So let me start by saying to you that equality between women and men is one of the European Union's founding values, and the EU treaties actually state that in all its activities the Union shall aim to eliminate inequalities and to promote equality between men and women. In defining and implementing its policies and activities, the Union shall aim to combat discrimination based on sex, racial or ethnic origin, religion or belief, disability, age or sexual orientation. So it's very firmly in the treaties of the EU that we're working for all proper rights. And the European Parliament actually has a Women's Rights and Gender Equality Committee, and it has members on it from across all the different countries of the EU and from right across the spread of political parties from left to right. And the committee, it's called the FEM Committee. It meets once a month. It discusses a range of issues that affect women's rights, not just in Europe, but beyond. And in the past year or so, it's been ranging a number of different issues, preventing and combating domestic violence, combating FGM, and also issues for women, refugees and asylum seekers. So let me specifically talk about so-called honour crimes in the EU and what is being done to combat them. Sadly, the majority of honour-based crimes still go unreported. And even when the police do know, these crimes are often not properly categorised as HBV. But I have to say that awareness of the horrors of honour-based crimes are gradually increasing across the EU. And even though there's no specific legislation tackling violence against women at an EU level, there is the Victims of Crime Directive, which gave special mention to honour crimes as part of what it describes as harmful practices. So it is getting a mention, it is getting recognition. And the European Commission considers honour-based violence as violence against women, and it's included in its strategy for equality between men and women 2010 to 2015. One of the earliest significant actions aimed against honour crimes was the Stockholm Platform for Action to Combat Honour-Related Violence in Europe, and that was actually back in 2004. And that resulted in a number of recommendations which went to the EU member states. And that included strengthening victim support and rehabilitation services, better cooperation amongst European police and regional institutions, and also dealing with crimes even if they were committed in a third country or by a European citizen or upon a European citizen. And according to this platform that was set up, gender persecution ought to be a basis for asylum as well. So there has been significant EU action in combating violence against women in terms of awareness raising and funding. That's really, I think, where the EU has had a part to play. So until 2014, the European Commission co-funded actions against gender-based violence at national level through the Progress programme and at regional and local level through the Daphne programmes. And these paid particular attention to eradicating honour crimes. Those now have all been incorporated, thank you, into the Rights, Equality and Citizenship programme, and that goes from 2014 to 2020, so that's the period that we're currently in. Now, I'm glad to say that the European Parliament has repeatedly brought attention to the issue of honour crimes. Back in 2011, we created a new framework to fight violence against women, and at that stage, the Parliament warned that the legislation differs across member states, meaning that women in the EU are not equally protected from male violence. However, the framework that I just talked about, that we established back in 2011, states that with the Lisbon Treaty, the EU has more competence in judicial cooperation in criminal matters, and this may be an opportunity to increase protection of women in those states where it has been lacking. The framework also completely rejects any idea that tradition or culture or religious practice can be mitigating circumstances. And I think that is so important. We cannot allow the thought that tradition or culture or religion can be an excuse for violence against women. So I'm very pleased that that's something that is completely rejected and is something that the Parliament is proud to say. So in February 2015, so a little over a year ago, the Parliament passed a legislative resolution which recommends, with recommendations to the European Commission, on combating violence against women. And again, this made special note of the so-called honour crime. Member States were asked to provide education and shelter to possible victims and raise awareness on the issue through information campaigns. And the Parliament's also, which I think is quite interesting, called on the Commission to take the first steps towards establishing a European observatory on violence against women and girls, and within the next 3 years to have an EU year to end violence against women and girls. I think that both of those would be very good, because although the European Union doesn't have a lot of legislative power in some of these areas, it does have a lot of influence, and it can, I think, push some member states to do more than they are. But also, we do quite a lot outside the EU member states. And so, for example, one of my colleagues last autumn wrote a report highlighting the challenges facing women and girls in Central Asia. And up until 2014, the evil crime of bride abduction was commonplace in Kyrgyzstan. And the authorities were turning a blind eye when a young woman was abducted from their family, forced into marriage, repeatedly raped. And actually, pressure from the EU has resulted in the governments across all 5 of those Central Asian countries, that's Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan, actually taking women's rights more seriously. So I believe that the EU does have influence in other parts of the world, and long may it continue, and long may we press in those areas too. I personally sit on the delegation for relations with India. So I've been to India on a couple of occasions, and I've been particularly keen to visit women and women's projects to see what is happening and how we can help. And that's been very, very interesting, very rewarding. And frankly, they have been very pleased to see another woman come and talk and be prepared to put your head above the parapet and call for what, you know, we think is just basic human rights, but to make sure that they understand we think they're as important in India and right across the world, equally important in every country, not just back at home. Now, I won't go on much more, but I know that I've had colleagues that have been involved in the campaign to end FGM, and you know, now people can expect a prison sentence for up to 14 years. We have yet to see anyone actually brought to justice, but the laws are there. We've just got to make sure that they're properly implemented. And also, let me just end on the question of within the UK. I'm very pleased to see that tackling domestic abuse has been one of the government's top priorities. And actually, the Home Secretary strengthened the law on domestic abuse to provide better protection to victims. And at the end of last year, the government brought in a new law that means that controlling and coercive behaviour will be considered as domestic abuse. So I believe that that is quite a landmark change, and I'm not alone in saying that, but I know that a number of women's charities have recognised that too. So I'm rather hoping that the Home Secretary that brought that in and recognises the importance of protecting women is about to become our next Prime Minister, because I think it's very good for women to have someone who actually understands the issues and has supported women's rights and sees it as important. It would be great if someone like that is the next Prime Minister of our country. So I will continue working as I can. I'm actually going, believe it or not, to a conference in Paris tomorrow morning to speak about the rights of women in Iran, who frankly have very few rights. Something like 63 women have been executed under the present regime, and many are in prison for just voicing their opinions or for wearing the wrong clothes. So it's a subject that I feel quite passionate about. I'm delighted that you're having this conference here today, and I'm very pleased that I could come and be part of it. Thank you.